so happy that you've joined me on another Saturday for another amazing episode. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about gynecologists. I was just sitting around my house and I remembered my first gynecologist visit. And not just my first and my second and my third. I mean, the first three were really terrible. Like totally terrible. And I wish that we as girls would be, prepared before we go to a gynecologist for the first visit. I remember, I think it was either last year, but one or so, when Judy Nyawera, that is Abel Mutua's wife, she took their daughter Mumbua for her first gynecologist visit. And I remember the time going like, oh my God, I wish that, well, my guardian, my grandma would have taken me back then when I was just 13 for my first gynecologist visit, because our parents and our guardians never knew, I think. I don't think that's how they were raised. Like to know that, at a certain age, you take your daughter, like you don't have to go to the hospital just because you're sick. You can take your child to the hospital just for a checkup, just for a visit. Let them have their first, visit, especially after they have just had their first period. That's when you should take them to the gynecologist so that they can be told, how this is how it goes. This is this, this is this. But I think our parents used to leave that information to be given to us by those people who used to come and teach us in school about pads and periods and stuff. So they just never, it's not like they never cared. Is that like, if there's no problem, then we shouldn't address it. So that is, if the daughter doesn't go to the parent and be like, you know what, I'm feeling some type of pain, I have these rashes, I have this, then they're like, yeah, we don't concern ourselves about that. But I wish my grandmother had, because by the time I was going for my first visit, I was so afraid. Like, so this is what happened. I know I said no more sad stories. This is not even sad, it's just life. So maybe somebody else will learn from this story. So I remember I was 20 at this time. My periods had started, I think, when I was maybe in class 6, if I'm not mistaken. That was around 11 years. If I'm not, yeah. Yeah, I was 11 years when my period started. So there's going to be TMI in this conversation. So tafadhali prepare yourself. Don't come at me and be like, oh my God, that's too much. There's going to be TMI. Just understand that. So my period started when I was in class 6. And then, of course, we used to have these people who used to come and, call girls, and they'll come and talk to you, blah, blah, blah. And they'll tell you all these things about periods and nini. And remember to stay away from boys because they're going to get you pregnant. Okay, sour. But they're not telling the boys what they're supposed to do in order not to get the girls pregnant, which was a little bit weird. I think that education should go both ways. Boys should also be sat down and be spoken to about their hormones, about, getting to 13, 14, how their body changes and everything. And because even in Kenya, like sex ed is something that is seen as a taboo sometimes. So I wish they could be taught as well. So when they started, they were just okay, normal. 4 days gone, 4 days gone. And they were light, that age. I go to high school, same thing. I think I used to use that pad. It used to be just 8 of them in a packet at the time. And I used to be okay. Because as much as we were taught about hygiene and how you have to change every time you go and pee, blah, blah, blah. Like we were taught a lot of things. But I don't know. It just never was a problem. I don't know. So I never had to. I just use that one. And then I started having some pains while in high school. So like my back would ache, but it wasn't as bad as other ladies had it. Because I remember these 2 sisters, I think both of them now in hindsight, they had endometriosis because we never knew. Angie and her sister, I hope they're still okay, because these ladies would cry. The sister, I've forgotten the sister's name, but she would have painful periods. Like she would scream in school. Like the time, all through the 4 days, She'll be in the sick bay screaming and crying. And Angie, she was in the same form with me because this, I think, was a form ahead of us. Angie was in the same form as me, and she would cry as well during her periods the whole time. Mine was bad, but I remember the only time that it ever got so bad was, I think I was in form 3 or form 4, and it was so painful that I had to go to the dorm and just sleep. I was the dorm captain. At that time, I had a spare key for our dorm, and I just went, opened it, went to my bed and slept, then waited until it was time to go back. I don't know what happened. I don't know who opened the door for the other people. Ama I woke up and went and opened the door. Ama it was my baby. I had spoken to her. I don't remember what happened. I just remember being in pain. And that was the worst it ever got at the time. So yeah, after high school finish, college, I was good. But then after college, I went back. I've said this before. I went to my uncle's place to help them take care of their young daughter. So while I was doing that, we used to share a toilet in that place, which happens in most places. My uncle was just starting out, me life. You have to go through some things. And so we were in that place, and I remember I used to sit on the toilet. I don't know why, because I knew better. I had been to college, I had been to other places where I knew you don't sit on the toilet. You just don't, if it's a public one. Like in my house, best thing ever. In public, don't. Like I don't do it. Any toilet that I have to share, don't. And if you must sit on it, then put tissue or those toilet protector papers or whatever. But that time, I don't know what was happening. I just didn't think that way. Because the thing is, my uncle's wife is a very clean woman. Like, she can clean. When she does a thorough cleaning at her home, she cleans even the walls. Like, this babe is very serious with her cleaning. Like, very, very strict with it as well. So, I think I used to see the way she's cleaning the house, and I will see her cleaning the toilet. So, I would assume it's still clean. But one of the neighbors that we were sharing a toilet with, this man used to drink. Like unasikia ile mtu anapii choo inanuka, I don't know what, like the dirtiest, the filthiest alcohol smell that you can think of. That one, it used to smell so bad. But then I don't know why it hadn't dawned on my head, like, you don't know these people, don't sit on that toilet. It's not just about that man peeing because he was drunk. It could have been any other person. People are sick and they sit on that toilet, blah, blah, blah. My aunt used to step on it like nakanyaga juu. And I don't know. Ama saa zingine I would step on it, and then that water ya chini, it, oh my God, like you can just imagine. As I say, TMI, it's going to be nasty. But yeah, that used to happen. So, of course, it didn't take too long before I started feeling, some type of way down there. I had gone through life without ever experiencing anything like that. So I start, you feel like itching, and then you feel blah, 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 and you feel some type of way, and then there's this, and then there's that. Eventually, it's full blown, and it's very uncomfortable. My periods, I would have periods the whole month. Like it will be spotting and spotting and spotting, and then periods will come, like the normal 4 days, and then they will go. I will have nothing for like a day or two. Then again, spotting, spotting, spotting. I would buy pads and just hide. Like any money I got, I would buy pads. At that time, I think kulikuwa na za 35 bob, if I'm not mistaken. Either 35 or 50, but ungepata ya 35 bob. I would buy those ones. Nipate 50 bob, I buy pads. Nakwambia, I will be using pads from the first of the month to the end. Instead of buying just, a pad for a month, I will be buying and buying and buying. And all this time, all I had to do was tell my grandma, you know what? I've not been feeling okay. I don't know what's happening down there, but there's an issue. I'm feeling this, I'm experiencing this, I don't know. And she would have just been like, okay, take money, go to the hospital. But I was afraid. And this is the reason why. As I said, our parents, our guardians never told us, like, let's go and see a gynecologist because you need to learn about 1, 2, 3 things about your body. I never knew about yeast infections. I don't know if we were taught during those, period classes. I don't think we were ever taught about yeast infections. I didn't know about yeast infections. What I knew is what we were taught on the first week I joined high school. There's this video that people used to be shown back in the day about STDs and STIs. And in this video, it used to be shown a lot of things. Like, hey, where that thing was traumatizing. Like if you are born 80s, I'm a born 90s kid, like you remember that video. It used to be terrifying. And then you will see that I used to run away from boys because I don't want to get those things that I saw on TV. I don't want. And then I still have that in mind. I was still naive. I was 2021, but I was still naive, believe you me. I started feeling all of these things, and I remember that video, and I was like, if I go to my grandma and I tell her that I need to go and see a doctor because of ABCD, she's going to think that I've been indulging in sex, and that is going to be very, very problematic because I've spoken about this before. There were things that were being spoken about me at that time. Like Mildred does this, Mildred anakuanga na wanaume, Mildred anafanyanga hivi, and all of these things. So I was like, if I go to my grandma and tell her that I need to see a doctor because of ABCD, she's going to think that I lied to her when I told her that those things are lies. And she's going to think that I did what they think I did, and whatever I have right now, I got it from those men. I was afraid. I suffered with a yeast infection for such a long time. I'm surprised it never got worse. Like gotten into like a kidney infection or something. Because by the time I went to a gynecologist, when I finally gathered up the courage to tell my grandma, like, you know what? I don't know what's happening. But because I was still at my uncle's, but then I went to my grandma or I talked to her on the phone and I told her, like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm itching, I'm feeling all of these things, and that place is like this. It's just bad. And so she goes like, okay, she sends money through my aunt, and she's like, okay, take her to the doctor. So where my uncle used to live, and then so it was a building, but on the ground floor there was a gynecologist clinic. So my aunt takes me there, and I go and I see these people. The doctor that I found was the owner of that clinic. I will not mention his name, but my God, hey, I hated being in that room. So I go again. This is going to be very, very cringy and very, very. Just let me just give a disclaimer. It's going to be bad. I go and I lie down on the table. Like he tells me, okay, lie down, remove your panties, lie there. And I do that. So I'm like, this is a doctor. Okay. I had never done all these things, I beg. Like being touched, nothing. And so this man, he tells me to lie there. My aunt is not there with me, I'm alone. And so I lie there, and he doesn't even use gloves. He doesn't do anything. This is an infection, but this man used his fingers like to do traumatic. He did whatever. It was like, oh, okay, this one, we're just going to give you this medication, be applying this like a cream. And then he tells me, and take this medication, this green dawa you get for yeast infections. I've forgotten what it's called. But he gives me that. And he talks to me there a little bit. And my mind is still on what he was doing. And I'm like, is that okay? Like, shouldn't you have gloves? Shouldn't you do this? Shouldn't you? Like, I just felt so disgusted. And I hated that I had to go to that doctor. I felt violated, honestly. Because, no, it didn't feel like it was a doctor's visit. It just felt like I had taken myself to be mishandled and stuff. And I didn't want to go to that hospital again. So I was praying that that medication works. It didn't. Because I went, it became worse. I think with the cream, it became worse. Now it was visibly, like you could see that this is getting worse. Hey, again, after a week, I'm like, I tell my grandma, no, it's not working. I went to that doctor, but the medication he gave me is not working. She sends me more money. She's like, go back. The good thing is that when I went back, it was his partner who was there and not him. Because this one didn't even do anything. I just lay there. He looked like this and I was like, hey, it's even on the outside. This is very, very terrible. He gave me that other medication that you insert, and that's what I used. And within a few days, it was clearing. And I was okay. And I told myself, I never want to go through this ever again. That has made me fear. Like when I talk about not wanting to sit in strangers' toilets or visiting people and not wanting to sit on their toilets and stuff and sharing toilet with people, when I say that I want, like even in my own home, visitors come and they just feel uncomfortable if they use my toilet, it's because of that. And of course, of where I grew up, like we used to share a toilet as well. So it gave me a couple of traumatic experiences, and that is why it's not like I don't like visitors or I don't like going to people's homes, but after you've gone through what I went through and that first doctor, I'm like, I just don't want to experience that ever again. This other doctor didn't even have to do anything. He just looked and he was like, okay, yeah, this is this, and he had gloves on. And I was alone. That was the worst part. I was alone. I get it. I was 2021, I think, at that time. But still, I should have had somebody there with me on my first gynecologist visit, especially because they were men. But anyway, yeah, that happened. Sorry for the TMI, but yeah, that happened. So anyway, it cleared and I was careful using that toilet when after that. I was like, I'd rather waste tissue paper, putting it on top, wiping, putting it on top, and making sure that I put a lot inside the bowl if I want to sit on that thing. Otherwise, I'm not sitting on it, I'm stepping on it and I'm still putting loads and loads of tissue paper inside it. So I'd rather go through a roll within 2 days. I do not care, but that's what I do. Even now, public toilets, if I have to use them, that's what I do, because I never want to go back to that experience ever again. And luckily, ever since, I have never gotten something as bad as that ever again. Maybe a UTI here and there through the years, because there are things that just happen sometimes. You use a public toilet and oh my God, and then you go medication cleared. But it has been years because I haven't been going anywhere, by the way. So luckily, it has been years I've been good, and I hope to continue with that because that is nothing I would wish on my worst enemy. A yeast infection, hey, I know they can get so bad, they can give you many, many serious problems. But anyway, I'm grateful about that. Like it's ended and it hasn't come back, and I hope that it never does. The second time, okay, this let's say the third time, because this was the other doctor was the second time. So the third time I went to see a gynecologist. So at that time, you know, like how you start shaving. I used to use a shaver, like I will use it for like my armpits, and I will use a different one for other places. Yeah, let me just say that. But whenever I would use that thing to shave, my armpits, I would have these things like lumps in my armpits. And I was worried because you are told if you have lumps, they can be cancer, blah, blah, blah. And so I was worried. I tell them that to my grandma, and she tells me, okay, maybe we should go and see a doctor. But then there was one on my breast as well. But these were just lymph nodes, I think, because I don't know if you have something swollen or hurt somewhere else, something else can appear in a different area. I don't know. It was crazy. But then I have that, and I was so worried, very, very worried. Back in the day, I tell my grandma, and she's like, okay, go to the doctor. This time I went to Uhainema. It was still new at the time because I was in Githurai by the time. I was living by myself in Githurai by the time. I go to Uhainema, and there was this doctor that I was told to go and see. Yo, hey. Okay, I don't know how doctors are supposed to check a woman's breasts for lumps or anything. I don't know how they're supposed to handle you because, okay, I need to go for mammogram one of these days. All of us need to. I think it's yearly or something like that. I haven't gone for one for many, many years. But that time that I did, that man made me feel again like that first doctor made me feel like I was being molested or something. It was terrible. He was, I can't even describe it on this Nini channel because it was bad. Again, I left there feeling violated. Instead of feeling like, oh, I've just seen the doctor and yeah, they were kind, they were gentle, they were this. Mm-mm. This man, and then he was just so arrogant, as if what I was telling him was something very, very silly and very, very stupid. I felt so bad. Ay, ay, ay. Only for him to tell me, I think those are just lymph nodes. They'll go away on themselves. Don't worry about them, blah, 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 blah. No x-ray, no mammogram, no nothing. He was just like, yeah, that's nothing. Go. So rude. So, hey, I never went back to be treated in that hospital ever again. Luckily, I went back home, and as he had said, they were cleared by themselves. But still, that appointment made me feel like I was violated totally. It was bad. And I was like, I don't want to go through this again. So, but by this time I learned. So my next visit to a gynecologist, I was a little bit older. It was in 2017, I think now. And it was at Aga Khan. The doctor I saw again was a male doctor. I don't know why I've always just had gynecologists who are men. But this time I was going to have a couple of more tests. And with him, I was like, I have to have a female nurse there. And so I had a female nurse with me, and she's the one who did most of the invasive tests. And I appreciated that because she was gentler, she was kind, and all of this. And the doctor was also very kind and very understanding. He didn't, like force himself to be in the room when I didn't want him to be. And I felt calmer, I felt safer. And that was, I think, the best experience I'd had so far with a gynecologist. So, yeah, that's my story with gynecologists. So, I don't know about you. I don't know if you have ever been to one. I don't know how your experience was, but I've told you about mine, the first one, and the second to last, and the third one as well was terrible, terrible, terrible. I hope nobody ever goes through that. So, I don't know. I was just thinking about it and I was like, let me record a little bit or something, tell people about my experience, and just urge parents to please be the ones to take your daughters to a gynecologist. When they start their periods, that's the right time too. If they don't start their periods before they turn 13, while going to high school, make sure they do before they go to school. Like, let them just know the anatomy, let them know what's happening, let them know about, the pain they're having. If they're having pain and they come to you, don't tell them, hey, that's normal. Let them get tested. Let them see if they have endometriosis. Because, like those two sisters in my high school, if they had gone to the hospital, maybe at this time they would have known what it was. Back in the day, I don't think any doctor would have, told them the correct thing. They used to just be given like Panadol. What is Panadol going to do with the pain that endometriosis patients go through? Like you see Natalie Kizenji every month. She goes like, Natalie 0 endo 10. Like she's in pain. And she says some parts of her body shut down and stuff. Like it's chaotic. Jambi Koikai died because of complications involved with it. So it's bad. And these girls were in high school. So it starts early. So I didn't want this to be a long video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. I just remembered, as I said, my experience and I didn't like it. And I just wanted to urge parents to please take your daughters when they start their periods, or at least when they turn 13, like what Judy did, and be there for them. Don't let them go, even if their first experience with a doctor is at 20. Like, be with them. And if you're uncomfortable with male doctors, go and ask for a female doctor. And if there's no female doctor, ask that there's a female someone there. Even if it's the receptionist that comes just into the room for that, for that moment, for that test, for that visitation, and then they go back. And because I remember when I was working for doctors, some women would come in because their religion doesn't allow them to be in a room alone with a man, even if it's a doctor. The doctors will be like, yeah, come in for a minute, just stand there, and I will just be in the room. And that made them feel safer or something, I don't know. But do that. Even if you're in your 20s, 30s, like even right now, if I were to go and see a gynecologist, I would ask either for a female gyna. If not a female, if it's a male one, I'd make sure there's a nurse there who's a female or somebody else that is female that is in the room with me. because I don't know. I'm not saying male doctors are bad. Don't get me wrong, but they don't. I'm just saying for me, just to feel safe because of my previous experience, I would ask for a female to be in the room as well. That way, if this person is as bad as those people were, like this other person will be able to say it. Or this man will feel like, hey, I can't do what I usually do because there's somebody else present. So, yeah, I just don't know. Not all male gynecologists are bad. And I'm not trying to say that even the ones who saw me were bad. I'm just saying my experiences with them were terrible. And I felt very, very bad and like I had been just violated when I left those rooms. So I never wish that on anybody. I hope that everybody's experience will be better, especially if it's the first one, because it can make you not ever want to go back to these doctors ever again. And it's something that you have to go just to make sure that you're okay. So, yeah, I don't know. Make sure that you do that and take your daughters and make sure that they are okay. And when they tell you they're in pain, don't tell them, I'm meza to Panadol. If they complain for the first time, maybe Panadol, yeah. But if they insist, make sure you take them to the doctor just so that the doctor can be like, okay, maybe it's nothing, or maybe that's just how it is. Some people have very intense pain, some people don't during their periods. I get back pains from time to time. Like this month could be terrible, the next one could be better. Back when I used to exercise, it will be non-existent after I've been exercising. So I don't know. I'm just not at my best health wise. I need to start exercising again and maybe the back pain will, fade away. But yeah, just I didn't want this to be a long video. So it was just a little bit of TMI and to tell you to please, please make sure to take your daughters to their first visit when you're with them, when they're still young, when you can be there to ask the right questions for them, so that by the time they start, seeing changes and experiencing ABCD, they can be able to go like, yeah, I remember mom took me to the doctor and this is what happened. Dads, single dads, this is, if you have your daughter, do the same for them. You can go in with them. If you're uncomfortable to be in the room, ask your sister, ask a a lady friend, another lady relative to be there with you, just so that you can be there for your daughter and so that your daughter can go through the tests that are necessary and she can know ABCD. And I know nowadays they even given HPV vaccine when they're in school, like at that age, 12, 13, 14, before they start, being sexually active and stuff. So that's a good thing. I wish that was there during our days, by the way. I don't know why we miss these things, but yeah, it's life. But yeah, I'm going to stop it at this. I don't have much to say. Yeah, peace. Sina mengi ya kusema, so I leave it at that. Remember to please give this a like. Aki, I've told you, just listen. When you start listening, just like the episode before you even go far. Like I go to other people's shows and like YouTube channels. I start watching and I just like the video before I even go far. So could you please do that for me as well? And remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so that whenever I upload something new, you're going to be amongst the first people to come